expect you to behave as such. Oh, Herbert, you are stiff. Herbert, 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 Herbert.
Hello name nerds, my name is Patrick and welcome to Fun with First Names, where each week we look into the meaning, origin and some extra fun facts behind one specific first name. And this week we're looking into the first name of Herbert. But before we begin, I need to say a huge thank you to everyone who became a patron fairly recently. So the first video of this year about my update for 2022 and what to look forward to in 2023, I talked about how last year was pretty much quite the financial struggle. I won't go into it all again, but I mentioned Patreon. I mentioned if you can and want to support on Patreon, please do. And so many of you guys turned out and joined the Patreon. That means so much to me, whether it be $1 or $10 or anything in between or beyond that. Thank you so much. So everyone who became a patron since the publication of that video, I need to say a huge thank you to Seven, New Wave Nancy, Cinder Hoang, apologies for pronunciation on that one, Ronald Powers, Tej Boz, apologies for pronunciation on that one as well, Sam Colhem, Theodore Mitchell, Supersonic 2510, Katie O, Michael Stanley, Danielle Brabazon, Travis Bonnet Kim, Eric Dominguez Ortiz, Giver Time, Darla Moon Dancer, and Kathleen Ferru. Once again, apologies on that one as well. Thank you guys all so much for becoming patrons. That means the world to me. I hope you enjoy your benefits, ad-free videos, exclusive content, a chance to say what names get explained here on the channel, and your name at the end of all these videos. Thank you all so much. Patreon.com/name explain. Won about $486 I think at the moment over on Patreon. If we can hit $500 by the end of January, that would be amazing. That'd be such an amazing way to kick off the year. That's like what? Bad at maths, 14 or so people, 15, let's say about 15 people or so. If I know there's 15 people watching this video who like name it fair enough to donate just $1 a month. I hope there is anyway. So if you can spare $1 and want to, please consider it. No worries if you don't, just carry on enjoying these videos. And also, if you don't want to donate on a monthly basis, you can also leave a super thanks. And super thanks can be left down below. There's a little button down below this video somewhere where you can leave a super thanks. And people who left the super thanks recently include Imelda G, Adam Styles, and Crazy Cat Dragon. Thank the three of you both so much as well. If you want to donate monthly, go to Patreon. If you want to leave a one-time donation, go to Super Thanks. Thank you all. It's really made me look very positively on 2023. We got this. I got this. You got this. Whatever you're dealing with, you got this. I believe in you. Thank you. But on with today's name of Herbert. And I actually just noticed that on Patreon, I put the name Hubert on. That's bad. Sorry about that. Like, I got it confused. I put Herbert instead of Hubert. This is my first time working in a couple of weeks, so we are doing the name Herbert, despite the fact that Hubert won the poll. Sorry all the Huberts watching this video, maybe we'll do Hubert next week or something. Huge apologies on that one. But no, on with the name we are covering today didn't win a poll by any means, that being Herbert. And Herbert's one of those names that you hear a lot of people know the name Herbert, but you don't really meet many Herberts, at least these days, at least where I am in the world as well. And it's actually a name of Germanic origins, coming from two Germanic word-forming elements. Those being Heli meaning army and Berat meaning bright. So together the name Herbert means bright army, which is actually really cool. Like, a bright army is quite a fun idea, I guess. Does that mean they're clever? Does it mean they're intelligent? Or does it just mean they shine brightly? I mean, that's not that clever if you're shining quite brightly as an army. You kind of want to stay a bit more low-key, I imagine, if you're in an army. In its native German, the name is Helibert, and then that got adapted into Herbert as we have in English to this day. But what I found most interesting about the name Herbert is the fact that here in the UK, it's actually become a slang term. And when I say the UK, I more mean sort of England, well, specifically the southeast/London sphere in general, I suppose. Herbert is slang for a dumb, foolish or silly person. Like, you go, oi, they're being a bit of an Herbert, aren't they? And you normally say, like Herbert, as I said, this is very much a London southeast centric thing, so that H, more often than not, would get dropped. Though this term isn't massively used these days, you don't really hear many people being called Herberts much in 2023. It seems from what I can gather to be more like a 70s thing. The English Stack Exchange forum, where I found some origins about this name, a lot of people were saying how they remember their dads using the name Herbert, calling other kids on the street silly little spotty Herberts. in the 70s and 80s in London, so this seems to be quite a generational thing. This could potentially explain to us why this name isn't that popular these days, however. Like, you've got a generation who are now having children who remember when they were kids, their parents using Herbert as like a mean derogative term. So that could explain this name is having it had a bit of a moment in the same way other names are having a moment at the moment, which we'll talk about at the end of this video. As to how the name Herbert came to have this meaning, we aren't exactly too sure. The Oxford English Dictionary have this definition for the word Herbert in their dictionary, and their earliest recorded use of it in this way is from 1925. And their quote actually uses an even shorter form of the name Herbert by going, Herb, a wag, a funny fellow. Yeah, Herbert became Herbert, just became Herb, but that's the earliest use we know of Herbert, Herb being used to mean a silly person. But the OED also has another great quote reference in Herbert being used in this way by saying, at large jazz festivals, the incursion of a minority of moronic roughnecks, known in the business as Herberts, is ruining the pleasure of the great majority. And that quote is from the 1960s, so this term is very much a 20th century thing, it seems. One idea as to where this term comes from is from Cockney rhyming slang, and that will make some sense because it's very London-centric. What's strange about it, however, is that Cockney rhyming slang terms tend to come from longer terms, like a butch is to mean have a look, and that comes from a butcher's hook. Hook rhymes with look, get rid of the hook, you get butcher's, just a butch. When it comes to Herbert, we don't know. Like, if it means fool, like you're being a right Herbert tool, that could become a Herbert, but that doesn't really seem to exist. It's just Herbert unto itself, that longer form. What made this potential Cockney rhyming slang doesn't seem to exist, so maybe not. It's also worth mentioning the Beano character of Herbert, and he very much fits this role of a Herbert. He is just called Herbert, they just dropped the H entirely with his name. He was first debuted in a 1954 issue of the Beano. People know what the Beano is, right? Like, yeah, people know the Beano exists outside the UK. It has a character called Dennis the Menace in it, who isn't the American Dennis the Menace, and they sort of came out in the exact same year. It's a whole thing. But no, there's a character in this magazine called Herbert, who was a bit of an Herbert, so he probably helped popularise this use of the name, I imagine, amongst people, kids of that time period, who became parents in the 70s. It all makes sense. There were also people claiming that this term was used in an original series Star Trek episode, like some sort of hippie planet used to refer to it as the authorities. They called the authorities Herberts. I never watched Star Trek, but I imagine there's some people watching who watch Star Trek, some absolute Trekkies watching this video right now going, he didn't mention it was used in Star Trek. Well, I did. I got you covered, bruvs. Bruvs? Why am I saying bruvs? Strange. New year, new me, I suppose. But whatever the case, the name Herbert for a certain demographic of people has become slang for a silly person. If you were around during the 70s and 80s in London, let me know if you have any experience with using this term, or if you have parents from that generation, ask them. I'll probably ask my parents after I've done recording this video about their understanding with this slang term of Herbert. Herbert. That's what I'd sound like if I never left London, I suppose. Maybe. I don't know. And as I mentioned, the name Herbert had a real moment in the 70s, it seems. And like I always like to stress, don't judge people by their name. Like, we're seeing this at the moment with the name Karen here in the English-speaking world, and with the name Kevin over in Germany. We've talked about that as well. Just don't judge people by their names. I'm pretty sure not all Herberts are actually a bit of a Herbert. Herbert is not a particularly popular name at the moment, as I hinted towards, with not being in the top 1,000 names in the USA. However, it was the 820th most popular boy's name in the UK in 2021. Like, that's crazy. That's quite that's the size of the amount of Herberts who were born last year. Little baby Herbs. That makes sense. But it's coming back, I reckon. We're going to have a whole new generation of Herberts, and maybe the slang term will come into popularity as well again. Who knows? Famous Herberts include, of course, Herbert Hoover, former president of the United States of America. There's also H.G. Wells, who wrote War of the Worlds, among many other things. The H.G. stand for Herbert George, so he was another secret Herbert. He clearly didn't want people calling him a Herbert, so he just went by H. And of course, while not a Herbert, a nickname of Herbert is Herb. And we have the amazing musician Herb Alpert. He did so much amazing music. Spanish Flea, Tijuana Taxi, This Guy's in Love with You. Terrific songwriter, musician. You mainly played the low trumpet. You've heard Spanish Flea. Like, Amber, if you can get like 2 seconds of Spanish Flea playing right now. That's enough so we don't get copyrighted, but like, that's one of my favourite pieces of music I've ever. Well done, Herb, you're very special to me. But anyway, that's just about everything you guys need to know about the name Herbert. But what are your thoughts on this name? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you know anyone with the name Herbert? Are you called Herbert yourself? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, I just want to share some of the thoughts of you guys on last week's name of Noel. I say last week's, I mean last year's name. Gosh, I get into a habit of just saying the same thing over and over and over. Last year's name. Aaron O'Donoghue said, Noel is a fairly common name in Ireland, where I'm from, but it's very much a middle-aged / old man name. I've only ever met 2 Noels under the age of about 50, and even that's not common. It's interesting how names have sort of different generations with different people. Obviously with Karen, kind of a middle-aged name. Clearly over in Ireland, Noel is seen as a middle-aged man name as well. That's cool to know. I kind of see Noel as being quite a youthful name. I always think Noel Fieldings is quite young, but he's probably not at this rate. He's been around for ages now. Like, I wonder how old Noel Fieldings is. I could probably find out, but I'm not going to. Amory said, when I was a kid, I was friends with a boy named Chris who had sisters named Noel, or maybe Noelle, and Holly. Guess what their mum's favourite holiday was? That is great. Like, people are really into Christmas. I'm all down for that. One that comes to mind for me, famous wrestler Mick Foley. He's super into Christmas, and his daughter is called Noelle as well. Like, yeah, there's people out there who are big into Christmas, regardless of the time of year, and your friend, his mum was clearly one of them, and Mick Foley's one that comes to mind for me as well. You wouldn't think that from the kind of stuff he does in the ring, but yeah, dude loves Christmas. Good for him. And Vikintas said, before opening up this video, I expected for it to be about the name Claus or Klaus. I wish it was about the name Klaus, because that's a great name. And also, I know it's a bit too late to be recommending Christmas movies, or maybe it's too early to be recommending Christmas movies. Go watch Klaus on Netflix. It's a great film. The people who made it were supposed to be making another film called Ember for Netflix, but Netflix just cancelled it. That sucks. I think they can try and make it somewhere else, but that sucks. Like, Netflix, man, what are you doing? Stop cancelling cartoons and stop making absolute garbage, please. Like, used to be a place of good content. Like, it was highbrow drama and comedy on there. Now they just make absolute garbage. This is going on a really different tangent. I'm going to wrap this video up now. But seriously, like, we need to be talking more about the rubbish Netflix is making these days, because it's not good. It's not good at all. Go suggest some names down in the comments below, and I'll pick 3 of those to be put into a poll exclusively for my patrons to vote on. And then the name that wins that poll will be the name covered in the next Fun with First Names video. Except for this case where I saw the name Hubert and my mind just went, no, you're going to do Herbert instead. Huge apologies on that one. Next week, I might just do a poll asking people if they want Hubert instead, because that was an absolute cock up on my end. Huge apologies about that. We'll see. But still, go suggest names. I always love having a back catalogue of names to work through. And go become a patron as well. I talked about this a lot at the beginning of the video. It's helped me so much just seeing that influx of care and love for the channel. It means the world to me. You guys are amazing. If you're a patron, even if you're not a patron, just watching these videos is amazing. But if you want to become a patron, patreon.com/nameexplain, $1 a month. Name at the end of this video. Ad-free videos, exclusive content, and a chance to say what names I explain. What more could you want? But anyway, that's more than enough for myself, guys. 2023 is officially beginning properly, I suppose. That's very exciting. Let's see what this year brings. But anyway, that's more than enough for myself. Thank you all so much for enjoying Name Explain throughout 2022. Here's to whatever 2023 brings to us. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where I'm NameExplainYT, and don't forget to go join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, where you can chat with myself and many other name nerds. Okay, all, take care. Happy to be back. Great to be doing this again. Let's get to this. Sorry, that just fell off and hit me on the foot and really hurt. We got this. Let's go. But no, on to those being Harry, this term and the origins of it. Oranges. Not oranges. Let's do that again. But the OED also have another great quote But the OED also have another great quote referencing. There are also references. I wish that name was about, or wish that video. Okay. Don't forget to go follow me on Name Explain. That's not right. My voice went there. That went well for not doing it for about part of 3 weeks or a month or so. Yeah,